Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet. Load up for discussion today. We have Trump Media announcing a $2.5 billion Bitcoin treasury plan just one day after denying that they had any Bitcoin treasury plan. We'll give you those details in just a little bit. We've got Circle filing for an IPO targeting a $6.7 billion valuation. Robinhood is actually providing IPO access. So that is pretty interesting. We'll get those details served for you also. And then also Plasma, the stablecoin blockchain, which I'm speaking about a great deal, announced an ICO at a $500 million FDV via Kobe's new public raised platform called Sonar, which I think is very interesting to note. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs. Plus, as you may have seen on Twitter already, we're delighted to say we're going to have Ultra joining us from Laudio in just a little bit. The #1 protocol on the mindshare on Kaito at the moment. We're going to be asking all of the questions we need to know the answers to for the Laudio idea, the platform, what he's building out, as well as some challenging ones as well. It's caught the timeline by storm. Looking forward to that conversation in just a little bit. I've got Legendary and Bread in the co-host seats with me today. Very much looking forward to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing we say here is financial advice. The market is exceptionally risky, and we are no experts. So do your own research and exercise your own discretion, caution, all of those good things. And then we'll get into it. Legendary, it's Wednesday, 28th of May. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, doing quite well. I posted this morning that I did my first hyperoxia interval training, which is basically exposing myself to intervals of oxygen saturated air and then air that is a bit more depleted of oxygen, just basically simulating the effects as if you were to do like training in the mountains, training, elevated training. And feels quite interesting. I'm going to do this weekly now. It's going to become a thing. I'm going to report on the data.
Is this after you started doing a little biohacking and now you're on all kinds of oxygen? Is that the plan?
It is a consequence of the longevity biohacking brunch I attended last weekend. Yes.
There we go. Well, good taking action. If I went to any of these health things, I'd like try to digest it for a while, think about it for a period of time. But you just same way you trade. You had the information. You press the button.
Gotta click the button.
You've made the trade. You press the button on the oxygen, and now it is coursing through you. Good to hear. Good stuff. Bread, how are things your side? Wednesday, middle of the week. What's going on, man? It's been we haven't seen you since Friday because we had Monday off.
We had a break because Monday was a holiday. Holiday for us, kind of. Not really. Like
I was trying to figure out. This is the thing for me. Like we basically follow the American schedule, but I just assume you guys never take a break. So my default is always to never.
Bro, weekends don't exist even for us. Like I go do.
That's my kind of thinking. But then I heard a little bit more about Memorial Day, and I was like, oh, maybe you guys are taking this one a bit more restfully. Is that the right assumption to have made?
Yeah, I mean, like, sure. I mean, probably slower, but like, no, I was still doing stuff. I think I took over the weekend, I went and did some paddleboarding up on a nice mountain lake, and that was like literally a disconnect from the internet. Couldn't do anything.
Nice.
But at some point over the last few days, you may see it with my face, I acquired a sty on my eye, which is just like basically it just like gets inflamed for no reason. So that sucks. It's kind of painful, a little swollen. But we persevere. We're out here hanging out with the homies and still doing crypto stuff.
The boys are down. They're having to take one person's biohacking. You're out in the lakes trying to get over the sty.
Looks like I got punched in the head. It's not awesome. And now I'm out here like fighting for my life on the Stay Laudio board. I was skeptical and I was like, you know what? I'll try to do this subtly. And even my not so subtle posts are not registering for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like, I know they're reporting some issues with pulling X into Kaito. That's why we saw like for a 4-hour period, some people who didn't even post had like 97 gajillion yaps.
If you said, right, if you said maybe this is the latest upgrade to the Kaito software detects skepticism, and so if you are skeptical and you're writing your post with a little skepticism, you're not going to get those yaps. Whereas Legendary, Legendary is a believer. Legendary believes that he gets that turbo boost, you know?
Man, yeah, like I don't know if it's like there's some sentiment boost going on in here or something, but like I said, I looked at the raw numbers and I tried it all. I was explicitly calling out as being informative, doing the charts, doing the pictures, getting like I just looked at the one post got like 30,000 impressions. My other one got like 7,000. My other one got like 10,000. I had one that got like 60,000. I'm
Well,
just now at 98th. That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Let's air it out, Brad. We've got Ultra coming on a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm coming
really,
after
really
him.
looking forward to this conversation. That's definitely one of the questions we can ask. The value of the Kaito algorithm, what happens when things are working, how they're going to determine when things are not working or not. Really looking forward to that conversation a little bit later. But before that, as usual, we're just going to hit you with the usual show. Let's start off with the price action to get you up to speed with everything that you need to know from the last 24 hours. We've got, to be honest, the majors are pretty chilled at the moment. You've got Bitcoin flat at 108. You've got ETH flat at 2.6. XRP is flat at 230. BNB is flat at 686. Solana is down 1% to $174. Checking in with our other two alt majors. Sui's up 4%. Again, maybe recovering a little bit from the hack stuff last week to $3.70. And Hype, conversely, is down 4%, maybe recovering a little bit from the crazy run that it's been on. It's still up 35% in the last 7 days, where most of the other things are just like maybe up a few percent at the most. So Hype back at $35 here. Getting into the meme coin side of things, I'd say it's just generally slightly red day. Doge is down a couple of percent. Pepe's down a couple of percent. Bonk's down a couple of percent too. Fartcoin's down 4%. Whiff's down 3%. SPX, Murad's coin, going in the other direction, up 11%. Ket on AVAX is up 7% as well. Mog's down a few. Popcat's down a few. That's what I would say about those. Launchcoin, maybe just checking in there. Technically not a meme coin, but something that's had a lot of attention recently, down 15% now to 160 mil. So not holding up super well at the moment there, down 30% on the week as well. Getting into the headlines themselves, we have a bunch of interesting headlines. Yesterday was a bit of a quieter day. We had, I'm happy to say we had better headlines in the last 24 hours. We had Trump Media announcing $2.5 billion Bitcoin treasury plan. It's pretty significant. Brad's going to talk us through that in a second. Just the key details, I think, because that's happening all over. You've got Circle filing for an IPO. We've had rumors of that for a while. Rumors that XRP wanted to buy them. Potentially Coinbase too, targeting 6.7 billion valuation. Legendary is going to walk us through some of those important bits of information. And then finally, been talking about Plasma a lot. Plasma is the blockchain, which is being backed by Tether and Peter Thiel's Founders Fund. They are going to be doing an ICO at a $500 million valuation via Kobe's new public raise platform, Sonar. So two things that are interesting there. One, the public raise platform, and two, the fact that Plasma are doing another offering to the public. And the details I will share with you because I think they're kind of interesting. Notable price action. Kaito's up another 10%. Virtuals is strong again, up 5%, with a number of their agents up 10 to 20%. Hype, as I said, pulled back to $35. Ledge, is there anything on the NFT side you want to bring to our attention?
The majors are more or less mirroring the price action that you had described for the memes, mostly down another 1%, 4% in the case of Doodles, 2.5% in the case of Azuki. The one thing I do want to bring up, I do want to mention, are the bad buns, the Mega ETH collection that we brought up yesterday. You brought it up specifically. I think you mentioned you got in around the like 0.2 ETH-ish price floor. I got in a bit later than you, but definitely a lovely sight to see.
Moving?
Say it again?
Are they still moving? I lost track.
They're still moving. They're up another 80% over the last 24 hours at a 0.44 ETH floor. Yeah.
Beautiful. Brett,
I don't like having FOMO on my own thing. I don't, because it's a community collection. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I'm looking at it. And I'm like, oh yeah, like whatever, you know, I don't need it. I knew about this shit, but like I minted one. Cool. Fuck.
You gotta get the bad buns, Brett. I saw one that had specifically your background. Did you see that?
Yeah, I'm a one of one in the thing.
Do you have your one of one?
Are you gonna get held to ransom?
Yeah, they have like they listed like 5 ETH. Like, come on, guys, come on. And then I
Could be a
have
bargain.
I have a 1 of 1 with the bread head on it, and then I have it's even named bread, and then there's I have a logo in there too. Like on the bottom right, there's a logo for like mafia projects and some other memes, like World Computer Day. One of them's a piece
I
of
got
bread.
it.
So
I need to bring it up on screen. There we go.
yeah, that one.
There we go. It's 5
yeah.
ETH. It's 13K. Get it?
Yeah, fuck that was
I mean, if the floor price is going to 5, where's this going to be in the future, Brad? It's an investment.
Never buy mid floors or above. You don't buy the 1 of 1s. You go for the floors, right?
Yeah, but you invest in yourself in that case, I would argue.
Yeah, you sons of bitches.
Disclosure, guys. As you know, as we spoke on the show yesterday, we bought in because we like the buns. I thought they were cool. Actually, maybe there's more specific to stop joking for a second. Seeing how the Hippio collection played out for, they minted out on base, then Hyperliquid went on to be so successful, and it seems to be like, if you can find an early collection for a incoming ecosystem that is like building out, people tend to want to target those people. So that's the thesis for people who are wondering. And it seems to be playing out, at least in the last 24 hours, which is not a long time frame to check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple other things. NFT side, this Pokemon inspired NFT art collection, Supermon, was pretty cool. The main reason why this was so cool is because it was just art, like nothing promised, no potential airdrop as far as I know. It ran from a 0.02 ETH floor to a 1.39 ETH floor. I thought that was very cool. Good to see, an artist have that kind of momentum. Shipwrecks is new flavor wrecked drinks to go on sale by minting an NFT on OpenSea. But the only people who will be able to mint the new set are going to be people who are either Rec Guy holders, or you need to hold a certain amount of Rec coin. So a little bit kind of whitelisted there with Rect assets. And it's going to be via an NFT, which I believe is the first time for the Rec drinks sale. Getting into the rest of the roundup, a lot of kind of corporate big firm type stuff. You got Shark. I've spelled this wrong. It was either Sharplink or Sharklink, and I don't know what I've written here. Gaming announces a 425 million strategic ETH reserve. Consensus is the lead investor, with Joseph Lubin joining the board. So I think this is being pitched as like the ETH version of MicroStrategy. Strive Management, co-founded by Vivek Ramaswamy, announces $750 million first wave of private investment to fund Bitcoin accumulation, which means there's no debt, with warrants up to 1.5 billion proceeds. So yeah, these companies are just getting spun out all over the place now. Most of the time with debt, to be fair. And so this was, I always feel like it's better when it's without. So that's what that is in this case. Sol Strategies announced a preliminary prospectus for up to $1 billion in potential financing. Their strategy is that they want to keep accumulating Sol. So across the board here, you've got Bitcoin, ETH, Sol getting accumulated by these corporations. Stewie hacked protocol. Cetus reveals plans to fully compensate users affected by the $223 million hack. MetaMask wallet, traditionally focused on ETH, adds native Solana support, finally, because I guess every other wallet has multi-chain support, I think, now. Celebrity, on the meme coin side, Celebrity Hasbro raises $20 million for meme coin pre-sale in the last 24 hours. This was sad news. Our friend G Money announced luxury Web3 clothing brand 9DCC will wind down, citing an inability to overcome the macroeconomic headwinds and the globally luxury retail softness. That was a shame. So I think he's doing something pretty unique in the space, and obviously not entirely viable in the current economic conditions. This came out of the blue. SBF 25-year prison sentence for fraud and conspiracy with FTX has been reduced by 4 years for good behavior. That is, I mean, it's only 4 years, so I still think it's going to be a long time. But I wonder whether it'll get further reduced. I don't know. And then on the social crypto side, Arbitrum has been added as a Kaito leaderboard with around 400,000 ARB across the 3 months for top 50 yappers. I watched the video there, and our guy Bread was first up on their whiteboard of ideas for how to get more attention. And then finally, Camp Network announced it will allocate 0.25% of the Camp supply to yappers in the Kaito ecosystem. In addition to that, there'll be $40,000 per month in rewards. So Kaito flywheel is flywheeling for sure. That is that. we will
You
get
hear
to
I was in the actual
Yeah, I
text
saw.
too. Yeah.
That was fun.
Opening line was if you want Bread Guy to tweet, or if you want Andy to tweet, there's an 80% he engages with Bread Guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Mm.
That was good. That was good.
Are you on either of these boards? Did you guys check to see? Like I'm naturally like top 10 on the Arbitrum one. So like sick. I might be
because
like,
you're just always tweeting about it, right?
I'm doing L2 stuff. Yeah, man.
Somehow,
Like
yeah.
yeah. So I mean, if that works out, and maybe it's another 5K a month or something just for chilling.
What's your, I mean, we're going to be talking mindshare and stuff even more later when we have Ultra on the show, Brad, but quick reflection here on that. How are you approaching these things? Because obviously you have a super powerful account in the sense that if you were to decide to go after any of these, I'm sure you would do very well and be able to, accrue a lot of points or yaps, and then whatever rewards, financial rewards they have at the end of it. How are you strategizing for it, and how would you recommend people think about it?
I'm in a different position than most people because I'm actually I'm on the core team of Meg ETH. Like I have a salary. I am building a project.
Doesn't necessarily stop people.
It doesn't. And you see Nico guy from Uniswap is as high on the audio and stuff. And obviously I participate, and my role is to grow mindshare of Meg ETH. And a part of that is talking about things that aren't Meg ETH, right? So it is somewhat my duty to go out and make sure I'm constantly having stuff. But I think I'm trying to do my best to stay natural and just to go where my intellectual curiosity takes me. And then usually that will do well. And again, for me to go out and just hammer something that is just out of left field for me. If I was just going to go start bull posting camp network, doesn't excite me. It's not relevant for me. It's a totally left field thing. Just it doesn't make a lot of sense. So my thing, what I've always done is I constantly talk about everything because I like to compare all networks. I like to show the TPS and the throughput and the, nerd speak argument shit. So I will continue just to do that. And as a secondary thing, if I get hit with some bonuses, I'll take it. But I'm not explicitly chasing some of these things down because I think some of it does loosen your brand quality.
I'm entirely on board with that, actually. Look, I think let's park the mindshare conversation because I think we're going to talk about that a lot towards the end of the show. But in general sentiment, I'm on board with that. Ledge, anything catching your attention separate to that before we get into the headlines and stuff?
Yeah, just the one comment that I checked Kaito at this update to see, in a very simple view, where you're ranking on what boards. And unsurprisingly, the board where I rank highest is Yeet. So the gambling maxi comes out. In terms of the other stuff, it's interesting, both the Strife management as well as the Sharplink, whatever it is, news, that we're still going on with those BTC and now ETH treasury companies. I still don't see the full playbook for that. We discussed it on the show. I'm very skeptical to the mid to long term future of those plans, other than just hyping up for a bit and increasing your valuation by funneling BTC and ETH into that and getting a bit of extra media exposure.
Yeah. I definitely am a little bit concerned about that as well. I'm just looking at the timeline here, and we've just seen GameStop have just purchased, this was 30 minutes ago, GameStop have just purchased 4,710 Bitcoin, which is around just over $500 million worth of Bitcoin. I think from memory, I can't remember if they were one of the ones that were using debt to do that. Running the kind of MicroStrategy playbook. But I guess we'll think about that more in a second. But I haven't fully understood my position because obviously you had the Trump news today as well, where he's going to, and Brett's going to tell us about that in a second. But I feel like we're overthinking it. Or I'm just talking out loud from my own personal perspective. I feel like I'm overthinking it. You know how, on some level in crypto, you always got to think of the worst case scenario because there's so many points of failure. There are known points of failure, which you should definitely be aware of. Then you also have to be aware of ones that you have not necessarily thought about before. And obviously people doing stuff on leverage, I feel like that's always a classic thing to look out for in whatever cycle you're in, to keep an eye out on where the leverage is, because that could be where something is going wrong. So I don't know what my conclusion is. Maybe I don't want to believe the conclusion that this is ultimately bad because some of these people are going to blow up in some way. Any reflection here? Like I'm trying to articulate what I don't have a strong, like my general position is that like tons and tons of people are going to buy Bitcoin like without debt, and tons of people are going to keep buying Bitcoin with some in this kind of leveraged fashion. What's your reflection here?
I think in an ideal world, that should not be news. That should not be an exciting thing. It should just be something that companies do. Like companies at a certain size also manage very often a real estate portfolio, even if it's just the home buildings they need themselves or like other stuff that they own. And it should just not be a news when a company is buying BTC because it's becoming the standard. And right now, I just don't like the fact that it is too exciting that a company is buying BTC and it is being like hyped and propped up as a, like almost marketing stunt. So as you say, I think there will be companies who blow up. Then the hope is that someone will buy that BTC OTC. Maybe Sailor will buy up some of those ruins. But then it will just become normal for some companies who want to have BTC exposure to have that. It's not going to become a news item. And once we reach that state, I'm going to be very happy.
I kind of like that take. You know, companies are not celebrated or non-celebrated for just making other investment decisions with their treasury. Shout out to English with this take. The black swan for this cycle will be when one of the Bitcoin companies, not MSTR, is forced to sell and causes a cascade issues in the bear for crypto. Well, I think someone will blow up at some point for sure doing this. But yeah, I think Sailor is going to be fine personally. Okay, we're kind of leaning in that direction already. So, Brad, why don't you just take it away and tell us what we need to know about the Trump Media announcement on their Bitcoin treasury plan?
Yeah, this one is actually mostly just in the headlines. It's pretty simple. So Trump Media announces a 2.5 billion BTC treasury plan. And why are they doing that? They're looking to diversify revenue. That's their excuse anyways. It's very similar to like a lot of these companies now purchasing this stuff. How do they plan on doing it? Is they're going to be selling 1.5 billion in stock as it's at its last closing price, and then 1 billion in convertible notes priced at like a 35% premium. The Bitcoin itself, once acquired, will be held on Trump Media's balance sheet alongside existing cash and short-term investments totaling just over $750 million as of the end of the first quarter. So I guess that means that they're going to acquire this shit fairly quickly. I want a BTC ETF flow. Oh yeah, so I like that's about it. Like it's just like they're selling off some equity to acquire a ton of BTC, as most things are these days, it would seem. My impressions of this is just like I want to see a dashboard that has all of these companies now that are doing a stockpile on top of the ETF flows, because like this is whenever we sit back and have speculated on the structural changes that have come and are coming that like are headwinds for the main asset, it's this kind of stuff, right? Like whenever, like who cares about people paper handing in this space when you have literally 8-figure 9-figure purchases coming in routinely for these assets. Like that changes the game. And that's what's more exciting here. It's just more of these companies lining up.
Yeah, I agree. Like I'm just very cautious of not overthinking it, and in the same way, remember when the tariff stuff was happening? Actually, pre-tariffs, they kept telling you that they were going to do the tariffs, and they kept telling you that there was going to be pain, and then it went down, and then they decided to change their mind, and then they kept telling you explicitly, as Legendary followed, Tesla, you should buy it. Like they literally just said, Tesla, buy it, and then they've kind of been telegraphing how they're thinking about the market. And I feel like they're just telegraphing up now. Like, so two things. Okay, you've got the thing on the Bitcoin side, which you've been speaking to, but the conversation we had a little bit yesterday with stats and the conversation that's happening around this big, beautiful bill where there's all this spending going on, and there's an argument probably only happening on the Republican side where half of, maybe not even half necessarily, but a certain proportion of Republicans want them to be tougher on spending, take ownership and responsibility for the debt, whereas there's actually not a lot of appetite for the rest of them. So it looks like, at least at the moment, trillions are going to be added to the debt and that's going to make everything else run away. You had Besant coming on TV talking about how, look, the debt's going to be the debt. We need to grow. Like, we need to grow. We need to grow. They started talking about that routinely, putting that message out there. Like, we need to grow the economy, kind of putting the debt to the side. Like, look, this is gonna keep going. And so I feel like they're just articulating this stuff. The companies are telling you they're going to keep buying. I actually bought a little bit more on the Trump news, which arguably, you know, maybe is that some type of top thing? I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to not overthink it in this particular instance. Led, would be curious on your reflections on what I've just said.
Yeah, I see that perspective of not overthinking it. I think I would draw a line and say that Trump Media in this case is different from the other companies that we just mentioned a couple minutes ago for those like BTC treasury buys, because obviously Trump Media plus Trump as a president has an, what do we call it? An aligned crypto strategy that encompasses the White House and encompasses all the Trump companies. So I would think that it's different for Trump going for this, or for Trump Media, sorry, going for this BTC treasury, because it just helps to further align all the crypto initiatives he's both doing as a president and companies surrounding him are doing. Whereas for the regular companies, like, kind of get the point to not overthink it, but I'm still a bit skeptical. But maybe it's not going to be too big of an impact, and that kind of links back to what English has said. Yes, you know, if a company blows up, that could be something that sends us into a bear market, but then it also really depends on the size, and it depends on the size of total buys. Because if I look at the ETF inflows and I see continuing inflows of hundreds of millions, what do we have? 400 mil yesterday, 200 mil the day before, 900 mil the day before that, then it's not too much if a smaller company with just 100 or 200 million BTC blows up. And then like the only thing to really worry about is going to be something of the likes of Strategy, Michael Saylor, because that size is size, but not a lot of companies holding BTC are size. I mean, Trump Media obviously would be sizable with 2.5 bill, but maybe everything in the hundreds of millions is not too significant anymore.
Yeah, reasonable point. Reasonable point. Let's bring Funky in here. Resident Bitcoin bull. Funky, draw a bow on this topic for us, please. What are your thoughts on Trump Media's entry into the Bitcoin treasury game?
GM guys, yeah, I mean, I think it's a net benefit, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and I think all the points you guys brought up were things I was going to say. I would respectfully disagree with English. I don't think there will ever be that kind of black swan. The only way we get a black swan is if MicroStrategy has to unwind, right? I mean, these smaller companies won't make a difference when you think about all of the ETF inflows, the sovereign wealth funds. It's only going to continue this snowball effect of going downhill. More people are going to want Bitcoin. I think you're spot on, B. Don't overthink it. I think everything Brad said, it just perfectly aligns. When I was at Consensus, Eric Trump, his son, was up on stage, and probably one of the most well-attended talks was he and the former Hut 8 CEO, which is a Bitcoin miner. They're creating this new company, American BTC. So, and they want to be the biggest mining company, and that's among two pretty tall giants in America right now with Marathon and Riot. So, I mean, all of these tailwinds are just showing how they are very serious about making America sort of the home of Bitcoin, bringing all the hash rate over here, and then all of these other institutionals, GameStop, you name it, anybody that just continues to buy. I think that buy pressure is always going to, for the next 5-10 years, going to override whatever kind of sell pressure may have. And the only one I would think would be pretty significant is if Saylor had to unwind for some reason.
Going to produce those Bitcoins in America. If you guys had to guess, when do you think the last outflow for ETFs was?
What do you mean by the last outflow? Last day where net outflows were higher than net inflows?
Mm-hmm. It just, well, I mean, net means it's one of the directions too. When was the last day do you think we actually had outflows? How long ago?
40 days. Not trading days, like 40.
I think there could have been a random day, actually. I think there could have been a random day. We've been hovering at different points, maybe like a week ago on a random day.
Last one was 16 days ago for Bitcoin. It's 14 days ago for Ethereum, but both have received inflows over the last 2 weeks plus.
Consecutive. Interesting.
Consecutive. It's just constantly coming, and like magnitudes are increasing. Right, like you can see. Yeah,
Interesting.
Appetite is increasing for sure.
Well, that's good news. As you said, so that's one dashboard we like to keep looking at. The other dashboard that would be awesome is seeing all these corporate balance sheets and being able to like gauge their risk profile as well. But remember, yesterday, it was in the talk yesterday, Saylor was talking to, it came out that Saylor's like super against, I don't know if it was specifically doxing wallets. The amount must be public.
It was his. People were asking about like, hey, can we see proof of reserves and what you have, right? And he's like, it's a risk, right? It's security risk. Like, bro, we know you have it. Like, it doesn't matter which wallet it's in. Like,
yeah, it's like you've hardly been undercover with your love of Bitcoin over the last few years.
Yeah, I guess it's not too far from like a Satoshi situation, right? Where it's like if you know the singular wallet that is his, then you're like, oh shit, it's moving. Like, what's gonna happen? Oh my god, they're getting liquidated. Like all this speculation. So like it can create some downside effects.
Sure.
So I can sympathize with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay.
We have the dashboard as well, Bitcoin treasuries. If you look at this chart, you can see how well Bitcoin treasuries across public, private companies, exchanges, custodians, governments, ETFs, and other funds is evolving. And even this blue strata, which is the public companies, is climbing nicely over the last year. And now we are up another 3%, which doesn't sound a lot, but is a lot if you look at the numbers of BTC and treasuries, because the total number of that is 3.37 mil. And in terms of entities holding BTC, we are at a total of 210 entities. There are 113 publicly traded companies, and 11 new companies or entities, to be specific, have joined that list of holding BTC in one way or another as part of the treasury.
Like it. Excellent numbers. That's a good website to have as one of your tabs, I think. Conscious of time here. Remember, guys, we're going to be talking to Ultra in just a little bit. We're going to be talking about Laudio, the #1 app on the Kaito mindshare board at the moment. Really looking forward to that conversation. That'll be coming up in the next 5 to 10 minutes. We've got a couple of other headlines to get through for you before then, because I think these ones are pretty important. Ledge, take us into the Circle IPO news, and then I'll do Plasma.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. There we go. Stablecoin giant Circle is targeting a $6.7 billion valuation in the States for its IPO. Other media are reporting that as a $5.6 billion valuation. The key difference there to understand is that you only arrive to the $6.7 billion valuation when you include outstanding options and other stock. So that is just to clarify if you see both those numbers, not confused. In terms of some more details to that piece of news, the company plans to sell 24 million shares of Class A common stock, somewhere between $24 and $26, looking to raise a total of $624 million. Also interesting to note that Cathie Wood's ARK wants to buy $150 million worth of shares in the IPO process. I think we talked about the news quite recently. The valuation back then was estimated by the media a bit lower, somewhere more in the $4 to $5 billion range. Interesting to see that increase. And also interesting to see the ratio between the circulating supply of USDC, which is 62 bill right now, and the valuation of the company, which is somewhere between 5.6 to 6.7 bill, depending on the methodology, but basically a 1 to 10 ratio. So for every $10, if you put it like that, of stablecoin that you have circulating, that's $1 of company valuation.
I like it. Good stuff. Any particular take here? You said you thought it was maybe slightly more expensive than what had been previously circulated. Like, if you, I saw an interesting. Apparently, this is accessible to the public. If you have a Robinhood account, you can download the prospectus. You can see if you want to invest. We've often talked about, like, Tether and Circle Legendary as things. We always ask the question, how do you get exposure to the stablecoin industry? And we're going to talk about another chance in just a second by Plasma. But at $6 bill, is Circle something you're interested in, or
I mean, I would say I'm interested in that. Yeah. Then if you compare it to And I know it's not a one-to-one comparison because one thing is a publicly traded company and the other is just a cryptocurrency. But if you look at let's get that up on stage as well. If you look at CoinMarketCap and you see Litecoin, Monero, BitGet token would be somewhere in that range. I mean, even Pepe at 5.8 bill, if you do the typical valuation without the outstanding stocks, Pepe is more valuable than Circle. And like, that's a price where I'd like to get some exposure to Circle if I look at it like that. Again, not a perfect comparison, but still.
Pepe versus Circle. Again, not a perfect comparison, but let's get into the final headline for the day. As I said, we are excited to be having a conversation with Ultra in just a little bit from Laudio. He'll be joining us in the next few minutes, and we'll be talking all things Laudio in just a bit. But the final headline is this plasma news. Again, not a perfect comparison with Circle. Circle is a stablecoin business. Plasma is the kind of blockchain arm of Tether. That's how I best described it. It's backed by Tether. It is invested in by Kobe as an angel, invested in by Paolo. Founders Fund, which is Peter Thiel's fund, has exclusively taken their second round, which was just raised at $500 million FDV, and they have now announced they're going to be doing an ICO at 500 mil, the same price as Peter Thiel's Founders Fund got in their latest round. Two interesting parts of this story. Number one, there's a new platform called Sonar. This is done by Kobe. It's like their spin out from Echo. Echo was always private sales. Sonar is going to be public sales. And it's been built to address the issue where founders and projects began to do increasingly large sales in their official comms. Brett, I don't know if you saw this. They mentioned Mega ETH. They said the largest was Mega ETH. They sold $10 million of their token through Echo at the end of last year. But one major drawback of Echo is that these sales are private sales. They couldn't tell their Discord or their Twitter followers that the sale was happening. I remember us speaking a bit about it at the time, or not talking about it at the time, and then wondering like, wait, are we allowed to talk about it now? Are you allowed to talk about it now that you've raised it? So it's like, it obviously creates like a challenge when you have a lot of people who would like to participate, but then you're not actually allowed to talk about it because of legal reasons. So anyway, that was not working for a lot of people, especially as the number was meant to increase. So what they've decided to do is build Sonar, which is a tool that lets founders host their own token sale. If they want to market their sale, it's their choice to do so. They're not constrained by Echo's private sales structure. So that's pretty cool. And it means that I think we might move towards an environment where more people can raise in this ICO style. I think there were some other bits of feedback as well, but I think that's the main thing for people to know, conscious of time. And then the thing about Plasma, as I said, it's the kind of blockchain of Tether. They've announced its public sale. It's 10% of the tokens will be sold at 500 mil FDV. So that's $50 million worth they're looking to raise here. And I think, so that's the same valuation as the latest equity round. To secure an allocation, this is an interesting mechanic. I don't know that many people who are doing it like this. You have to deposit stablecoins into the Plasma vault on Ethereum. I think it's in 12 days time. And your time-weighted share of total deposits will determine your allocation. So you kind of need to buy in, kind of, quote unquote, you need to deposit with them. The more you deposit for the longest possible will increase your allocation that you'll finally get. But obviously that is relative to all the other depositors who probably want a slice of this as well. So you're probably going to have to put a lot if you want a lot. But if you don't have a lot, it still gives you an opportunity, right? It sounds like you're going to get something because it's all relative. So it's all done on proportion. So I think that's a cool thing. Brad?
Yeah, I think
What's
it's
your
going to get
take here?
crowded. I really I really, really want to, but the fact that it's so telegraphed tells me that it's going to get exceptionally crowded, especially being the first one. Tether is a ridiculously profitable company, right? They're billions per quarter. So like people want exposure to this shit, right? You want exposure to that, especially at a 500 billion valuation. That feels very low. Even if you do believe infrastructure is going lower, like me, like there's still plenty of upside left there when you have, the Ethereums of the world at several hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And striving for trillions. So all of those things make me say, yeah, sweet. But then I also, you look at like Barachain, and Barachain was able to accumulate $4 billion in a pre-deposit vault, right? For a, mediocre return of yield, whatever, all this stuff, right? A lot of headwinds. I have to imagine we're going beyond that easily here. And is it worth me depositing what would be a material amount to me into this thing to lock up in stables for X amount of period, like to not even know that I can actually buy the thing because of the accredited investor like conditions that they're going to slap on everyone, how strict are they going to be with that? I just like, I don't want to FUD myself out of it, but I feel like it's going to be a very crowded trade, and I just don't have the capital of like a machi big brother who's going to like drop, $50 million in there just because LOL, I did a pre-sale.
I think all of those points are excellent. Like those are all the things that people should definitely be thinking about when you're trying to participate in this thing. A couple of details which people, just to maybe plug some gaps. I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can see this. Remember, we're live on YouTube as well if you want to be watching the screen. This is the deposit page. It goes live in 12 hours. Sorry, not 12 hours. 12 days. 12 days. The initial deposit cap is actually 100 mil. So there's probably some math that you can do. I haven't had the time to do it now, but there's probably some math that you can do to figure out like, okay, well, if I was to put X amount in and the cap is at 100, at least for a period of time when the cap stays at 100 mil, I might be able to get exposure to this amount. But as you said, or as you were maybe alluding to, that cap is not going to stay at 100 mil. Like it will routinely get increased over time. And to your point about the KYC stuff, I think everyone has to do that via this new platform now. So you got to, even if you're an Echo member and you've done all the process on Echo, you need to redo that now on Sonar because it's like a separate thing. If you want to participate, that it's a very much different thing. So that is that. Good points though. I want to bring that to people's attention. It's probably a good deal. Just depends what size slice you can take. Ledge, do you have any thoughts on the plasma stuff? Otherwise, we're gonna. Well, I want to hear your thoughts first.
Well, just in one sentence, similarly as I want to have exposure to Circle, I want to have exposure to plasma as well, especially at this ridiculously low valuation. I agree with Brett that I think it's going to be mega crowded.
Yeah, I think it's going to be crowded, but kind of tempted still to try and get something through the door. Okay, good stuff. Guys, as we said, we are now delighted to move the conversation on to our dial-in for the day. We have Ultra with us on the show, in the spaces, and on video. Ultra is the self-proclaimed dashboard GCR. Actually, is he here with us yet, Ledge?
Can't bring Ultra up for the moment. The mic seems to not be connected. It was connected before, but we'll fix that in a sec.
Okay, good. This is punishment for his shitty dashboard being shitty. Stay down there, Ultra. You don't deserve to come up on the stage. I'm going to talk trash on you for a little bit.
We're hitting the hard refresh.
Never mind. I take it back.
Everyone.
Hey, Ultra. Great to have you with us. The self-proclaimed dashboard GCR, building stable audio on the #1 position on the Kaito mindshare board at the moment. How are you doing, my man? Good to have you with us.
Does he call himself? You call yourself dashboard GCR, or was that given to you? I feel like you can't give yourself a GCR name.
That's my bio. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen too many other people
did someone say it first?
Yeah. I forgot who, but yeah, random comments.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool to be here. It's been a hectic few days of attention. It's very cool and unexpected.
Good stuff, Brad. Just to clarify, the bio says self-proclaimed dashboard. Yep. There is that. There's the disclosure there. So it's all good. It's all good. Good to have you with us, Ultra. Obviously, you guys have been blowing up the last few days, capturing all the attention with what you guys are building at Stay Laudio. First question, let's start it off with Kaito mindshare. Like, what's the secret? You came on the scene. Obviously, you've been creating content and doing all these dashboards and really understanding what interests people. So I think you've got a great handle on that. But you kind of created Stay Laudio. It's taken over the timeline. What's the secret? How did you get to that #1 spot?
Yeah, I think the secret here was probably a catchy name. And then I think, this is the first project we see on Kaito, which nobody knows anything about, right? Usually it's very well-funded projects and chains and protocols that, get on Kaito, pay for the fee, and get a custom leaderboard. So people already know about it in prior. This is kind of the first time we see a completely unknown project come up on the Kaito radar. So yeah, I think that resonated a lot. People started speculating all across the board. There was confusion everywhere. People were trying to farm Yaps because I teased that there was going to be an internal, leaderboard. I kind of did that just because I needed to like pre-fill the data on the leaderboard, but it turned out to be a great marketing strategy across the board.
So you think, based on your observation and how you're doing it, like the speculation, the mystery, the secrecy is very much part of the strategy?
I believe so. Yeah, I can get consultations for 10,000 a week, but no, I think I think the mystery was the biggest selling point, and just the experimental side. It's the first time where you see a completely unknown project from a solo builder, in a sense, like an experimenter, right? Just come up on your timeline and with a catchy name, and I think that was what people liked.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, because if you step back and think about it, all of the dashboards are like these big, well-funded layer ones, layer twos, like VC backed projects. So I think that's accurate. On the general mindshare thing, before we get into the Laudio stuff, we've got all kinds of questions on the product, how you're thinking about it, what direction you'll be going in. But just setting the scene here, like, how do you think Kaito is doing measuring mindshare at the moment? Do you think Yaps are a good metric? And how would you kind of improve or criticize it if you had to?
Yeah, I think it's very good that we had a first mover in the space. I think this distribution mechanism is extremely useful. Mindshare rankings and proof of work rewards based on that is probably the most efficient distribution method you can get as a project, right? For every dollar spent. So that's extremely good. On the methodology, we don't really know what's happening behind the scenes, right? It's kind of a black box that gets tweaked over time, and there's people that have tried to reverse engineer it. Personally, I've also tried, but it keeps getting updated, right? They introduced loyalty a while ago, so you cannot be on too many dashboards, or you're going to be slashed or deboosted. Yeah, I think it's very useful. It gives a number on attention, which is something we always needed, especially for better distribution of rewards and proof of work. But is it perfect? I don't know. That's why it's being tweaked all the time, right? It's not perfect all the time. And also, like today, I did 3,000 yaps in a single day. Is that uh was that earned? I don't know.
Yeah, good good point. I think there's definitely been some challenges, right? But as you said, it's kind of a iterative process where they're moving forward. Right, do you want to get into some of the product questions here?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing for me is how you're going to actually weight the mindshare stuff, or how you're going to actually incentivize or create that link between the yappers and the traders, speculators, right? Because like you alluded early on in your tweets about, hey, this is a 3-3 bond, right? It's a bond between two parties that if they behave in the same direction, like they both can potentially win, right? Like traditionally, that comes from the Ohm days, and then in friend tech there was a I buy your key, you buy your key. Some people see it even today with like ethos, they'll bring it up, or hey, I'll write a review for you if you write a review for me, right? It's this mutualistic thing. And in this, right, the key is that 3-3 bond is between the people on the timeline basically being subsidized by the fees that are generated by the traders and speculators. Yappers say, hey, if you guys keep trading, you'll generate fees for us, and we will keep yapping. And traders say, hey, if you keep yapping, you keep bringing attention to the coin, to the token, to the product, whatever, we'll likely keep speculating, which will fund you guys doing it more. what made you think of that initially, right? Like I would say it's like a more distilled version of basically what Kaito is outright, right? Kaito removes the product, right? Or well, it
Yep.
has the product, it inserts the product in here, but this, you removed it. Like why? What inspired that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just wanted to underline, this is not a product and should not feel like one, right? It's just an experiment which was kind of thought of in less than a week ago. So it's just, very just quick to market kind of experiment on attention markets. The inspiration, as I outlined in the release article, was mainly two things, which is one is Kaito, which has been with us for more than 6 months now, and I think is one of the best kind of distribution methods. As I already said, like as a project, every dollar you spend is just a bucket of money that people have in front of them. They have to work to actually earn it. And so it's an extremely powerful method of distribution. And then I was inspired by Believe and all the launches happening there, which they had this very high fee on every swap. It was a 2% fee on each swap and trade that was being used to fund on the other side the creator, and the creator then was incentivized to keep shipping or keep bringing attention to the product so that more people would speculate on it and so on. So I kind of combined these two feedback loops, removed what was in the middle, which is the product, right? And wanted to try a experiment which was fully the purest version of just one side with each transaction, each interaction paying for mindshare, which is ultimately what worthless things need, like meme coins and so on, are nothing but things that require mindshare, and that's what generally drives value. So I wanted to create a system which that's exactly what happens, similarly to Believe. And on the other side, you get a marketing agency for hire, which is using the best distribution method, which is Kaito leaderboards. This is basically all it is. It's an experiment on if attention is all you need to drive value, and we've speculated about this a lot in crypto. We've seen incredible ideas get no traction, and very simple ones get a lot. Will this work? That's what fascinates me, and also how people are going to play it. Brad mentioned, it's a free system. There's a lot of game theory that is happening here. On the one side, the traders are paying for a service on every transaction. On the other, the KOLs, the yappers, can play in a few different ways, right? Kaito leaderboards or mindshare feeds, which is what I'm using in the role form, kind of reward great content. They do some also sentiment analysis on it, so it does not reward like food to earn or anything like that. So we're using the raw Kaito feed and using that to evaluate people. Now the KOLs can play it a few different ways. They can just shill a token and sell their account. They can just create informational content. But the best way to play it for KOLs would be doing two things: maximizing the volume output, which means more fees for them. So it's going to be interesting to see if people sometimes are, write positive things and sometimes negative. That's going to be interesting. Or and the second thing is that this is basically the best tool they ever had to make real cash every single week, because the fees are distributed in Solana tokens, right? This is the best Kaito leaderboard they ever had. All the other ones distribute rewards once a month or even over the span of multiple months, and it's in random tokens. Here it's like hard cash every single week. So there's a clear incentive for them to make this continue to have value on the other side, right? That's the free. This is the game theory that is at play.
So that I went through two things. One, I think about like you've removed the singular person. You talked about the Believe app people where like, oh, like everyone's mad that the token is going down. It's usually one token associated to one founder. And you're like, you just do the meme of the dude, you know, holding the gun, yelling at the person, just tweet about our thing, right? Because like make the price go up. Same thing that happened with Friend Tech and like Fantasy Top. And whenever there's an asset or a thing tied to another singular person, yeah, you like they get the ire of the entire world if it doesn't perform well. But now, because there is no singular person, it is the collective. Like there's no singular person you can yell at for this to actually tweet about it. So like, and then it's also kind of self-referential, right? Because the people tweeting about it are going to be the people that bought the coin. I know most of these KOLs, which would be hilarious. What if you end up like, we are the ones that ape into this shit, and we are the ones paying the fees to ourselves to ultimately yell about the thing, and like it just it becomes a little circular. And then you made me think about something else with the product, but you know, that was the first thing on the top of my head of just like distributing the ire of the world across basically everyone. There's no one you could target for this, like for doing well or going up, going down. Like it's all people. That was the other thing. People talking about just price going up because it benefits them. Right? There's no product here. There's no thing to get excited about to LARP is like, oh, it's going to redefine the world. It's really just like, I want this thing to continue to do well because it will pay me money. So it's like, it is, there's no, there's no illusion of a product at all. It's literally just like my voice or my attention generating, my mindshare generating capabilities is worth X, hopefully. And I'm trying to get that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a completely, you know, worthless token that is a proxy to attention and has clear incentives on both sides. So I'm really curious to see how that all plays out. And yeah, it's just very fascinating as an experiment.
I like the. Do you know what I like? I like the layer on top of the game theory, because obviously there's the 3-3 game theory as you just described, but there's another layer to it, which is you have Kaito, you have all the leaderboards for quote unquote actual projects. And then you have this pure experiment where it's just about how can I monetize mindshare versus how can I also monetize mindshare by choosing to post about Polkadot, Mega ETH, whatever it is. And then if you then see that layer of game theory, when earlier this week, Laudia had 28% of total mindshare, which basically also implies that 3 out of 10 people, or 3 out of 10 mindshare is choosing to talk about the most direct way to potentially monetize this with Loud versus actually talking about the project. So that for me was an interesting reflection to see. But a question I wanted to ask, it has nothing to do with that, but it just goes back to something that Brett said before, and you also explained when it comes to the fee side of things. You specifically have this cutoff for the top 25 people,
yeah,
in terms of mindshare, who will earn on those fees. How did you decide on that rather restrictive number?
Yeah, I think most of the criticism came from there. And I think most of the criticism came because all the marketing campaign kind of targeted the yapper community, right? So obviously the smaller accounts feel left out of the race. But here the number 25 was kind of chosen arbitrarily to create a small enough but large enough pool to create competition, right? The best outcome for a token or the token holders is that the most valuable accounts will talk about it. But very large accounts will not talk about something if there's no huge incentive about it. Probably big accounts are already financially very okay, right? Would they just talk about this token for 4 figures in incentives per week? I'm not sure. 5, 6, what's the number? So it's all about concentrating all of the rewards in a pot, which is, you know, for 25 people. There's an open war between different KOLs in trying to get there. And in doing so, the token holders are squeezing out the most amount of mindshare possible for it, which is what they want, right? If it's all about mindshare creation as a token holder, you know, putting your shoes not from a perspective of a medium-sized or small yapper, but from the token holder perspective, you want to maximize attention, which is literally what all the other projects are, you know, doing. And with Kaito leaderboards, just here it's a much more aggressive thing. And the other difference, some people kind of compare this to the Infinix leaderboard, right? The Infinix leaderboard is very welcoming also to smaller yappers, but I think the goal is extremely different. For them, it's about distributing a token across many people, getting them loyal with the brand, right? They have to, everyone needs to feel like they're part of the project. They need to feel loyal. The scope of the leaderboard here on Loud, because there's no product in between in the middle, is just to maximize attention as much as possible. It's just an open war where on the one side funds attention, the other one provides it in the best method possible.
Follow-up question to that real quick. You said something interesting. You said, the larger accounts are typically well off. Will they care about a 4-figure a week incentive? Probably not. Low 5 figures becomes more interesting, but probably not. Mid 5 figures is where it becomes really interesting, but that then also in return will create significant sell pressure if they want to realize those fees. So how can this be a sustainable system? What basically prevents that from happening?
Yeah, the key point here is that the fees are not distributed in Loud tokens. It's Solana, right? Every fee taken on each transaction is in hard cash, in a sense. It's in Solana tokens, which, as much as it is volatile and then has, sell pressure, it's a large market cap token. It has no influence over the price pool, or very little. So that's the key aspect of this whole system, which maybe has been tried in similar ways in the past, but also under a product kind of mindshare and trying to maximize alignment between one and another. Here's the purest form of just one thing providing something to the other, right?
Exactly.
I've got another follow on there when it's thinking about, like you mentioned, loyalty, which I think is pretty interesting. How important is it? Just because there'll be all different kinds of people listening to today's show. We've got people with big accounts, a lot of capital, all kinds of other people who are content creators, builders, and all kinds of different people. How important in your mind is it that there's loyalty stretched out across a number of people, and this 3-3 is kind of participated in by more people? Or are you seeing this as, you mentioned, like this all-out war between 25 people, and that's the game that needs to be played? I suspect you need some participation from the bigger crowd. We had Diablito in the comments saying, and this is at least one take that I've seen before as well, not just in this instance, actually in a variety of instances where there's any KOL, big KOLs kind of producing this type of content. Instead of a bread guy says it's slightly circular, they say it's a KOL circle jerk. You described it as an all-out war, though. So how do you think about like extending that loyalty and making sure more people can feel that, or is that not that important?
I think that loyalty mostly comes from the token holder perspective, and also the initial distribution of the token will have to feel very community owned. The plan is to have an extremely wide and a fair distribution at the beginning, so that it becomes kind of like a community token for the wider Kaito community. Like everything will be raised in another article, but the idea is really to have a very low entry with a small buy-in and extremely wide distribution. That's how you align the interest. Like most small accounts should not be necessarily participating in the war, because for the token holders, there's not much value in small accounts talking about it, as much as maybe you see people across Twitter. But it's the big accounts that really drive the value, in my opinion, right? And so alignment is not really achieved through enabling everyone to participate in the war, because that does not make things extremely efficient, but it's more so in the initial distribution, so that people feel part of the experiment by starting from the bottom together with everybody else, right?
Got it. Ledge, did you want to ask something?
I just wanted to say previously that I think this was one of the common misconceptions with the fee earning. The other thing that I wanted to ask is, how do you think about, like, I had this little theory in the morning that basically if the rewards at some point just start to get lower because the trading volume is going down, then it might become less interesting for some of the bigger accounts. Then the smaller accounts will actually see sense to participate in the attention war and make the top 25, because then the earnings will be significant. And then once it might get to a point where this is bottoming out and there's like a change in the mechanism, a game update, you said in the article, this is a preliminary set of rules might change, and then volume is picking up again, that it might go back to the bigger accounts who then pick it up as a topic again. Do you think that this could move like in cycles of attention, or is it the wrong way to look at it like that?
The real answer is that this has never really been tried before, and so we're going to see in production. But what I think will happen is one of two things: either we're going to see cycles of attention, or we're going to see people play it the best way possible, where large accounts have an interest in making this a success and keeping volume up constantly. That's the best outcome that they can have, right? They are the ones responsible for this tool's success, in a sense, in this experiment success. It only exists and works because of how the KOLs play it, right? That's their side of operating the system.
Interesting. Brett, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I just saw a tweet from Legendary. I can't believe you've earned 3,000 yaps in the last 24 hours based on this ultra. That is utterly insane.
Yeah.
Like, can you think about what that would have been? And like, we haven't seen rolling distributions for yaps, but I know they were doing it on like a weekly basis to like like every 7 days, whoever achieves whatever rank, they're going to get payouts in Kaito. We haven't seen anything this heavy weighted for sure. And I wonder what that would actually correlate to dollars.
Yeah, really not sure. It's all things we're gonna find out in production, right? That's the beauty of it, and I also enjoy seeing all the speculation. There's already people talking about all possible scenarios. There's people that have middle-sized account. They're saying, I'm gonna bribe my following so they boost my stats, and I'm gonna share part of my rewards if I win. Just strategizing even before the token is out, which is very, very cool to see.
Nice.
How did you approach Kaito about that, to present that experiment to the team? What was their, to the extent that you can share that, the initial reaction or thought on it?
Yeah, I had already actually built an MVP with a competitor, but went to Kaito, and they were actually very welcoming of me and experiments in general. I think they kind of know me already, and I know Wenwun from the team, and also had some interaction with you. It's I think they were extremely welcoming. Obviously, there is also a clear incentive in this experiment succeeding, because again, 20% of the fees go to Kaito stakers, right? If this experiment in the first week generates 7 figures in fees, the Kaito stakers, which is I think a pool of around $40 million right now, would get a again 7-figure payout, which is 2.5% in a week of profit, which is insane. So there's a clear alignment of incentives, and it's like they want to support experimentation and while doing so, get a possible benefit out of it, which is very clear.
Nice.
Yeah, I took on my first perp position whenever I saw that they were giving X% to the Kaito stakers, because it seems like everything that Kaito is doing specifically is like they're trying to drive value back to stakers. Like we're seeing airdrops at an unprecedented rate, and if this thing does do well, which I imagine the first week it probably will, just because it's novel. Like whether it has staying power is the question, but I think there's going to be enough speculation on the run up and everything else week one, that at least initially, we're going to see some really ridiculous payouts. You just mentioned like a 7-figure potential number. Like based on the top 10 Solana volume coins over a day. I know I did a little extrapolation on that. Like, yeah, if it reaches some of that, like the top person or few people could see almost 7 figures worth of payouts, depending on if this is mindshare weighted, right? Like that's insane. Now, again, sustainability is a huge question. That's a leak in the boat. Unless these people are taking that money and putting it back into the chart, Like those are all leaks in the boat. It just depends on how much speculation, how much capital is out there in the world willing to take on that 4% fee.
Yeah, you can kind of think of it as, there is a leak in financial value on one side, but there's a injection in terms of attention, which is the ultimate driver of again more and more interest back into the token itself. So it's more like paying for a, again, marketing agency on the other, on one side, and the marketing agency doing its job on the other, and so bringing value back. I don't think that necessarily there's an open loop or sinking boat. It all depends on how KOLs will play it. As I said, the best way they can play it is ensure longevity for this cash cow in a sense for them, right?
Interesting. Okay. Well, look, I'm conscious of time, Ultra. I think you've been through a lot of the core aspects. Just looking forward here, a couple of things to close. You said the initial distribution and timeline for liquidity raise will be out soon. So how are you thinking about those two things? I know you've got an article coming, I think, shortly, but is there anything that you can share or just your thinking in that direction?
Yeah, the thinking is that this should feel like a community token in a sense for the Kaito ecosystem. So again, while the wider Yamper community is kind of excluded from the leaderboard participation, they should feel they should be able to be part of the experiment by taking the token side, right? So there is going to be a whitelist for different kind of parameters, but mostly looking at Kaito users and people that talked about loud in these days, people that both enable the success of Kaito, but also enable the success of loud. That's how I'm looking at it.
Got it. And for the people who might not be getting even part of that broader distribution, I guess for them to think about it, it's like if they were going to buy the token, it's kind of a bet on the KOLs who will be pushing stuff that they are going to keep the flywheel going, right?
Yeah, I guess that's it. It's a completely worthless token that has only value being a proxy to attention. Is attention all you need to bring value? That's what we are trying to find out, and how long this cycle can keep going. And if it's actually, maybe you find out it's extremely sustainable and people always play by the rules. That's always there. That maybe there's coordination across everyone. It's something we're going to find out.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out. Ultra, is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything we've missed out? Any other aspects you'd like to share before we close out?
I think that's all. There's going to be another article coming up. And if you have any more questions, I actually always have DMs open, as I'm a bit flooded, but I try to answer everything and get feedback before the experiment is launched.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for dialing in with us. To the people
When is that? That's the alpha. When is the launch?
The idea is to have it extremely soon. So I don't want to set a precise timeline. It's not just me, working on this. There's also launch by partners and stuff and other deadlines involved, but the idea is within a few days.
Within a few days. There we go.
Yeah.
Ultra, thanks so much for joining us. It's been very interesting to find out more about how you are thinking about this. If you're unfamiliar in the audience and you're watching in, I've got Ultra's Twitter account up on screen. If you'd like to follow along for the journey, it's at 0x_Ultra is the personal account. And of course, you're probably already following, but just in case you're not, at Stay Laudio is the account to follow on what is going on with this attention experiment. Ultra, thanks so much for joining, man. It's been good.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Just a reminder, guys, in the audience, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X Video, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.